Good evening. I wanted to. I don't want to really not necessarily do a sharpening video per se, but I am going to sharpen this knife here, which is one I made from a kit. It's a really good knife. It's a blacksmith made blade, and I made it a few years back. It was pretty cool. I mean, the blade came already with the the angle of the bevel and all that. That was already set. What the real aspect of the kit was making the handle, shaping the tang, and all that stuff to your preference, and obviously getting it sharp. But what the whole thing that really prompted this video was I was actually at the beach for a few days and just happened to be checking YouTube videos out, and I was looking up a video. I was seeing if there was this Leatherman Wave Plus tool, which I've shown on my YouTube channel before. It's one of my favorite tools. It's favorite everyday things to have in my pocket, and it's got to the point where I used to only carry it at work, but now I really I carry it around in most regards. I will be in my pocket at some point during the day, even on off days and such. But I was looking for if there was any, you always see if there's any accessories for it that might be handy, and I came across a guy. I think it was called That Gear Guy. I'd have to double check that. I think the name of his channel was That Gear Guy, and he had mentioned he's from the UK. Before I continue, and he had mentioned that he'd won a knife or something like that in a contest, and a pocket knife, I mean, and he was visited by the police. I just, this is something I didn't know. There's apparently in the UK a lot of pocket knives are illegal, or at least they're you have to have, I just sort of show like justifiable reasons for owning it, or carrying it at least, which I was frankly I was kind of surprised at that. I have a couple of friends in the UK, and a couple more people that I've never actually met in person, but I would certainly consider them friends, at least above normal internet acquaintance, so to speak. And I never, just one of those things that who asked about knife laws. I've been carrying a pocket knife. Here's that crescent one I've shown in other videos. I've been carrying a pocket knife like this. Yeah, not this one necessarily, but one of similar size and functionality. I've been carrying something like this around for most of my adult life, and I never really considered it something where like I was being threatening by having it, or if I happen to see somebody with one of these, or one of these guys clipped to their belt or whatever, I never would have even considered it. I certainly wouldn't be afraid of them. But it's once again, it's one of those things you learn. It's not my country. It's not my rules. I just was, as I said, to me, it was a little surprising. This knife is, well, I'll get back to that knife illegality thing in a moment. But this knife here, I didn't, I have gloves on now, but I didn't feel the edge before I took it out of the sheath. But I think it's pretty sharp to begin with, but I'm going to give it a honing anyway. I'll do 20 strokes on each side, using the angle guide. But as I was saying, I was very, I was a little bit surprised. Let's just put it that way. I think I need 4 more. Probably off, but it's not the end of the world if I am. I'm going to switch it to the side. I'm using a different honing oil. I didn't necessarily care for it, but I'm using it up because I had it. I'm using the Smith's honing oil. Little awkward sharpening in this knife, in this style. Once again, I almost always sharpen freehand. Usually much faster than this too. That was 20, right around 20 strokes per side. And I'll chase the burr, as they say. One of the things I do like, I'm really not a fan of the angle guides, to be honest. They definitely have a place. But what I do like about them is they are, in my opinion, for somebody who's never sharpened a knife before, they do help. If nothing else, they help you develop muscle memory as to what angle to hold your blade as you're sharpening it. And I'll just use the strop here to do the final honing. I just charged it the other day. Actually, I brought it to the beach with me and didn't use it. I brought it just in case I got bored. And I have a fresh piece of paper here. So this should be pretty sharp, but we'll find out. And yeah, that's razor sharp. And it probably didn't need to be sharpened to begin with, to be honest. Because I've always kept it. I don't use it hardly ever, and I've always kept it just nice and sharp. Actually, the weight of the blade just tore it there. But this is a nice, really nice level. I'm getting my greasy hands on it. This is a really nice level of sharpness that you'd want for a knife like this. It's amazing that a knife this large can make some pretty fine cuts, actually. So yeah, that's good and sharp, and nice level of polish on there. Nice uniform. If it's once again, I apologize. I have horrible lighting in here. But getting back to the legality of, not that it really affects me in any way. I obviously live in the United States, but I was just curious if anybody out there, I don't have a very large following, obviously, but I usually get a couple hundred views on these videos. I don't do these for the views, honestly. I just do it. To me, it's relaxing. Takes my mind off things. But my point is, I really, what I wanted to know is, if anybody from the UK happens to be watching these, if you wouldn't mind commenting, or could you confirm that what I'm saying is accurate or inaccurate? From what the video I watched, the presenter, he mentioned that anything that flips open like this and locks is basically illegal, and anything more than 3 inches is illegal. Now this knife here, I guess if you're this knife here fails on both counts, measuring from where the bevel right there, the actual sharp portion of the knife. I don't know how hard and fast they go. Do they measure the whole the whole blade itself, or do they start? Is this where it actually becomes a knife? But this knife here is just about 3 3/8 inches long. Forgive me, the guy from the UK who presented the video was speaking in inches. I'm assuming that in the UK inches would be used in this regard. Millimeter wise, is that 3 3/8? So would that be maybe goodness forgive me, maybe 88 millimeters? I'm probably wrong. Somebody feel free to correct me. But this knife here, which I would consider about as innocuous as you can get for a pocket knife, is illegal. This Leatherman here, which I don't generally, the funny thing is with this, I don't use the knife very often. The main two tools I use on this are the flathead screwdriver and the scissors and the pliers. Actually, the pliers are really handy, as they have a built-in stripper as well, which just comes in handy in my line of work sometimes. But the knife is, I'll measure that from the knife falls into the range. This knife is just about from, once again, if we're measuring where the actual functional part of the blade is, the knife is just about, actually exactly 2 3/4 inches long. So that would be something like 85 millimeters. Once again, forgive me if I'm wrong there. But it locks. And I saw another video where the guy took it apart and put a washer here, right on that little locking tab that I'm pushing down. He took a washer and put it in there to keep the blade from locking into place. And his reasoning there was, he thinks that would make the knife pocket legal in the UK. I don't have a lot of knives. I'm not a knife guy. And here's one of my other knives that I would keep on a regular basis. This is a case, so it's a pretty good quality knife. This blade falls in right at 3 inches. Almost 3 inches on a dot, but it doesn't lock. So I think that might be legal in the UK. And again, I have to stress, I don't live in the UK, so I obviously, this has no effect on my life. This is more out of curiosity than anything else. If anybody out there wants to let me know, if you feel inclined, let me know if I'm right, wrong, or if I'm somewhere in the middle in regards to UK knife law, because I'll say again, I was just a little surprised at what I read and what I saw in those videos, and then when I did a little bit of follow-up reading, and it was kind of vague what the information I could find on the internet. It was even on UK websites. It was really, it was very nebulous, if that's the right word to use. It was just, it was almost like the law wasn't fully formed yet. And here in the United States, it's weird. Like I have no legal training aside from like a very basic couple Constitution courses I took in college. I have no legal authority. I'm not authorized to give out legal advice. But what I do know is that when laws here are nebulous or vague, they tend to favor, if that's the correct word, they tend to favor the private citizen. Meaning, if what it really comes down to, if it doesn't specifically say it's illegal, then it's not illegal. In the UK, it seems that it's almost, in terms of this law, I mean, these knife laws, it almost seems to be the exact opposite is the case, where you're, as the private citizen, you need to explain yourself to the authorities. And that's what I really was questioning. Not that I'm questioning it, that's what I'm wondering, if I'm correct on that or not. So if anybody out there wants to elaborate more on that, if they have more knowledge than I do, I would certainly appreciate you leaving a comment or something like that on a video. I would it's just something I want to know for my own own personal knowledge. But a friend of mine, I did actually send him an email about this yesterday, but he hasn't responded yet. He's just probably, I'm guessing, has been busy. I haven't actually seen him in many years, but I haven't talked to him via, when I say talk, I mean email or instant messages or anything like that. I haven't done that in several weeks. So, we, like all of us, we have busy lives and such. So yeah, if anybody out there wants to enlighten me, please feel free. Once again, I appreciate you watching. Thanks. Have a great night.